No, thank you so much, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee. Greetings to the members of the Portfolio Committee and the Secretariat. Let me take this moment to appreciate, the speed in which the Portfolio Committee responded to the letter that we submitted, following, of course, Chairperson, the kind of incident that is unfortunate that relates to disparaging remarks that undermines, a person's dignity in this regard. And one would have noted in the letter that the engagement here that we brought to yourselves is not just about an incident of an individual or two individuals in this case, but really to test whether the issues we are dealing with on a daily basis that responds to gender-based violence can be kept where it starts. Of course, this relates or it's sparked by what had happened on the 24th of April, where a popular podcast, in this case, Mr. Mokwebo, which he's referred to as MacG, made those remarks that are disparaging towards the media personality, Ms. Dlamini, by referring to what he asserts are possible reasons why Ms. Dlamini supposedly an inability to keep a man on account of what he believes may be her unpleasant genital odor, by crudely so asserting maybe her crotch smells or something, and that is the utterance that was put forward. In his comments, Mr. Mokwebo insinuated that the reason behind the termination of Ms. Dlamini's past relationship is, of course, in part due to the scent of her genitalia, where he iterates those comments. And Ms. MacG's statements immediately sparked a wide range of responses from his followers and others on social media, polarizing a heated conversation on various social media platforms between those who support his platform and unchecked, in this case, freedom of speech, and those who called for accountability and withdrawal of his utterances as they grossly so encroach on Ms. Dlamini's freedom and security of person, dignity, and the right to equality as enshrined in our Constitution. And this really is why we bring this matter to yourself, that Mr. Mokwebo's utterance constitute online violence as defined by our National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, that states that any act of gender-based violence against a woman that is committed, assisted, or aggravated in part or fully by the use of information and communication technology, such as mobile phones, smartphone, internet, social media platforms, or email against a woman because she is a woman, or affects women disproportionately so. I have since issued a statement, Chairperson, and condemning these utterances as vile and as disgusting, which statements have detailed a series of interventions towards holding him accountable for his unconstitutional statement, particularly in as far as that it consists not only just undermining the ethos of our constitutional democracy. The broad base of interventions are detailed in my statement and the letter, of course, as an annexure that was submitted. But I will address them here in this submission to yourself as Portfolio Committee. Among the interventions I've highlighted is the subject of my appearance before the Portfolio Committee, and this Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth, and Persons with Disability, which is a request for the committee to invite Mr. Mokwebo to appear before Parliament to account for his utterance, and as it is necessary, be compelled to withdraw the misogynistic statements which are reversing efforts towards social cohesion and the universal respect that should be afforded to all South Africans in upholding the values of South African Constitution. I will also refer this matter to Portfolio Committee on Communication and Digital Technologies and its department, therefore, to ramp up the efforts towards regulation of online media platforms such as podcast to ensure that the messaging on these platforms adheres to the Constitution and various other pieces of legislation that governs what is acceptable speech in our society as empowered by the right to freedom of expression. The matter will also, of course, as I've asserted in my letter, be referred to the constitutional statutory bodies for investigation, including but not limited to the Commission for Gender Equality, which also accounts here, the South African Human Rights Commission, and the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa, and of course, definitely the South African Police Service, as it may be legally plausible, among others. The legislations that we have, Madam Chair, these legislation pieces, which institute checks and balances on freedom of expression, include but are not limited to the one that I've listed for yourself, the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, the Prevention and the Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Act, the Cyber Crimes Act, the Protection from Harassment Act, and the Films and Publication Amendment Act. These are just amongst others. We raise these issues sharply, Madam Chair, because Mr. Mkwebo weighs considerably influence in South Africa's social discourse with a following of at least 1.5 million viewers subscribed to his YouTube channel, notwithstanding countless scores of South Africans who access his content on Moja Love channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other social media platforms readily available to the public. I think indeed one thing we appreciate as a department is also to highlight that podcasts are innovative spaces. We appreciate the creativity, even of what he has done for this country. However, we also want to highlight that we are aware that as early as 2025, South Africa had approximately 26.7 million active social media users identified, representing about 41% of the country's total population. This marks a growth of 700,000 users from the previous year. MacG's comments have a potential reach most of these users of these social media, noting the influence held by his podcast. We also note that Mr. Mkwebo's wide-ranging influence, it also could be an egregious error that we will allow Mr. Mkwebo's utterance to stand without passing the acid test on whether they are fit for purpose in our constitutional democracy as a all of society, including Parliament in this regard. This plays a part towards eradicating the gender-based violence, and that's why we bring it also to your attention that as government, as executive, we'll be doing our part, the judiciary does its part, but we also are asking Parliament to do its part to help us eradicate gender-based violence, pandemic, and all the elements in society that supports the proliferation, particularly through the dissemination of unchecked misogynistic rhetoric. We bring this matter to you as the Portfolio Committee, noting the serious challenge of gender-based violence in society, with a great part starts with the normalization of what we characterize as soft violence, which is in the context of gender-based violence and femicide refers to a non-physical, subtle, and often socially acceptable forms of abuse that harms individuals, especially women and girls, emotionally, psychologically, and socially. Through it may not leave visible scars, it reinforces the power imbalances and can have a long-term harmful effect, particularly as Mr. Mkwebo's utterance entrench the objectification of women's bodies and promote culture of misogyny and sexism that identifies with these incidents. Madam Chair, violence or gender-based violence must be stopped where it starts. And such utterances lead to the victimization and the action that we are all battling with, and which is the high level of rape or physical and sexual violence, including murder of our people. What is most alarming is that Mr. Mkwebo has a known history of disparaging Ms. Dlamini and various other women on this same platform, some of whom are reported to have initiated civil proceedings to reclaim their constitutional right and the dignity, of course, which have been savagely so molested by Mr. Mkwebo's uncouth verbal temperament for this regard. The case of Mr. Mkwebo and Ms. Dlamini is not an isolated incident, and we shouldn't even try to characterize it that we are looking at the two. It's a case study, but ultimately there are more than other cases, various incidents and statistics that on a daily basis we deal with, which correlate with the high volumes of gender-based violence and femicide cases in our country. Children at risk, approximately 1/3 of South Africa's children are vulnerable to online violence, exploitation, and abuse. Notably so, 70% of children surveyed use the internet without parental consent, and 25% have added individuals they've never met in person to their online contacts. The cyberbullying amongst young people, a 2022 UNICEF study revealed that about 64% of South African young people or youth have experienced some form of online bullying. The psychological effect include increasingly anxiety, depression, and in severe cases, suicidal ideation. Gender-based violence, online abuse, over 70% of women reported experiencing online abuse and harassment, with 95% witnessing other women being targeted. The LGBTI individuals also face significant online harassment, with 82% of surveyed youth reporting such experiences. And when you even look at the context of young person and persons with disability who experience the very same kind of cyberbullying and exclusion. So the recent Human Science Research Council baseline study have also revealed and highlighted that there is a causal link between high levels of gender-based violence incidents, which emanate from what we may be considered soft violence, because there's no physical harm, but it inflicts or it's inflicted towards victims. The study demonstrated that it starts with verbal, it starts with the words, it starts with emotions, it starts with online, it starts with a number of nuances, violence, and ultimately it ends up into that physical abuse. And the worst case scenario is femicide. We must understand this context, and we must appreciate that by bringing this to you is valuing and honoring the responsibility of yourself as parliamentarians, the powers that you have, and how we can help really deal with the issues. There is, of course, been a narrative that this concerns MacG being subjected to a cancel culture. I want to emphasize this point that is untrue and not founded in any fact of our statement. The real issue here is addressing the trend of misogynistic utterance he has made on his platform. We are calling for his utterance to be tested on whether they are fit for purpose in our constitutional democracy by institutions protecting democracy, including Parliament. In as much as we support the right to dignity, we also support the right to dignity for Ms. Dlamini, but we also support MacG's right to freedom of speech, which must abide by the limitation set in the Constitution. MacG or Mr. Mokwebo cannot use his right to freedom of speech to rob the dignity of others, or Ms. Dlamini, or any other South African for that matter. For the benefit of honorable members, cancel culture refers to the practice of publicly calling out and boycotting a person or brand or organization, often on social media because it's perceived offensive, problematic, controversial behavior, statements, or actions. The goal is typically to hold them accountable. But the method can involve social shaming, loss of reputation, job termination, and backlashing. But that is not what we are actually interested in. But we want the mechanism of Parliament to be utilized. We must be empathetic that we support the expansion of podcasts in South Africa, and particularly the one that is led even by Mr. Mokwebo himself, which has created jobs and have a potential to contribute positively to South African social discourse and social cohesion. This is not about cancel culture, but by protecting South Africans from gender-based violence. Parliament has a responsibility, Madam Chair, to join in the clarion call that was made by His Excellency, Mr. President Ramaphosa, towards ensuring a whole of society approach to ending gender-based violence, which is the second pandemic. Parliament is empowered by the Constitution and the powers, privileges, and immunities of Parliament Act to summon any person to appear before it and account on any matter of public interest as follows. A, Section 56 of the Constitution that states the National Assembly or any of its committees may summon a person to appear before it to give evidence on oath or in affirmation or to produce documents. B, require any person or institution to report it. Compel in terms of national legislation or rules and orders any person or institutions to comply with summons or requirements in terms of paragraph A or B, as I stated earlier. And of course, D, receive petitions and representation or submissions from any interested party or persons or institutions. Section 14 of the powers, privileges, and immunities of Parliament Act makes reference to a joint committee that may summon any person to appear before it to give evidence or on oath or affirmation or to produce documents, require any person or institution to report to it, summon in terms of subsection 1 or subsection 56A or 69A of the Constitution to appear before the House or a committee to give evidence or to produce documents that must be issued by the Secretary on the instructions of a Speaker or Chairperson or the Chairperson of the committee concerned, acting in accordance with the resolution of the committee and with the concurrence of the Speaker or Chairperson. Section 17 of the Powers and Privileges and Immunities of Parliament Act, a person who has been duly summoned in terms of Section 14 and who fails without sufficient cause to attend to at time and place specific in summons or to remain in attendance until excused from further attendance by the person presiding at the inquiry. So these are reflections of the responsibilities, and it goes, of course, until that expresses the element of failure or dissatisfactory or not complying to the process. And not complying may have serious consequences that may be, of course, extended by that. So should Mr. Mokwebo refuse upon your request, which will be your decision, if he refused to the invite to appear before the committee, it can be recommended that he be summoned to appear. That will be in line with the powers and privileges. But I think what is quite important, he also will be urged, or the committee will be urged rather, to exercise its powers that are necessary, subject to Mr. Mokwebo, to Section 14 and 17. What we are then saying and what we are referring to you is a matter that you must undertake or consider to undertake rather as an acid test to our constitution around the issue of dignity and freedom of expression. But also obviously to state the point, would Mr. Mokwebo to appear, or should Mr. Mokwebo appear before the committee and parliament summoning the powers? Those should be invoked in the instance he refuses to submit himself to the committee willingly. And of course, you ultimately have to consider some of these issues. But there are references on social media, Madam Chair. Those references that relate to other matters that as a government we are dealing with. In the case of Omotoso Okwekwe, which suggests that the ministry and department has been silent or doing nothing. And these may be understood to have been, or department to have been ignoring these matters. There must be an understanding that we are an advocacy department and we have acted accordingly, even on these matters, even in structures that we are part of. And what our role is will not only just be limited to dealing with cases of rape and murder, but also dealing with prevention as the NSP and also as our powers really instruct us. The ministry has been engaging with all stakeholders in matters of Kwekwe case and noting this involves a minor. The department has had to treat carefully on the merits of this matter and allow the South African Police Service as well as the National Prosecuting Authority to continue with their investigation. The minister visited Kwekwe and the family in accordance with various government departments. On the Omotoso case, Madam Chair and Portfolio Committee members, the matter has been escalated to the JCPS cluster for consideration, and there will be a coordinated response from that cluster. Tonight we are meeting and we'll get proper guidance and we'll share it accordingly and keep the Portfolio Committee updated. The ministry coordinates a response to many GBVF and other cases on gender equality with relevant departments. I think it's quite important that we appreciate that this is not just the case we are looking into, but we bring this matter to the Portfolio Committee for consideration, and we are confident that this arm of state, which is Parliament, will exercise its powers and hold Mr. Mokwebo accountable for his utterance. And I want to even make a submission for your consideration that should the committee explore this, don't limit it into just a matter of Mr. Mokwebo only, but think or see the picture beyond, including whether the implications of Ms. Dlamini in this case, and we deal with the subject of really the dignity and expression accordingly. So I really want for us to consider that the withdrawal that we have proposed that Mr. Mokwebo must do includes the apology that he must also be requested to offer to the entire South Africans for that matter. So thank you so much, Madam Chair and Portfolio Committee members, for your indulgence.
Thank you so much, Honourable Deputy Minister. And before I hand over to honourable members, I want to ask a question, Deputy Minister, whether Ms. Dlamini has opened a case of cyberbullying or gender-based violence herself, whether you are aware that she has gone to the police station and opened a case of gender-based violence or cyberbullying at this stage.
I'll let you, Madam Chair, that in my engagement also with Ms. Dlamini, she is engaging with her legal team. I'm supposed to be getting update of the actions that they will be undertaking on this particular matter. But I did engage with Ms. Dlamini and also extending our solidarity. But I will allow them to conclude their legal engagement with her team, and I will bring you up to date once I have the information, Madam Chair.
Honourable members, the question before you now, we thank the Honourable Deputy Minister for her inputs and her submission to this Portfolio Committee. The question now before you, honourable members, is whether you believe that it is our mandate to mediate this case, considering that there's currently no case opened with the South African Police Services for cyberbullying or gender-based violence. So the question is whether you want to accede to the Deputy Minister's request and whether you believe that it is our mandate to mediate in this case, as she has argued this morning. I will now take hands. I would like all honourable members to please give their inputs so that we can come to a conclusion on a way forward. Honourable members?
Chair, I have raised my hand.
Yes, thank you, Honourable Whip. I'm just trying to see if there are any further hands, except for Honourable Chauke Adonis, followed by Honourable Polwane.
I've got a hand here. I've got the issue of the
Oh, yes.
hand. You can just note me
Followed by
when.
Honourable Lonzi, followed by Honourable Shabango, followed by Honourable Kanile, followed by Honourable Dr. Letlape, followed by Honourable Peterson, followed by Honourable Spies, and then followed by Honourable Tsotetsi. So over to you, Honourable Whip, and then we'll take it from there. Honourable Mabel, I'm sorry. I saw your hand as well. In fact, Honourable Mabel, do you want to proceed? And then we'll go to the Honourable Whip. I think Honourable Mabel's hand was up a long time ago. Okay. Just unmute yourself. Just unmute yourself. Just unmute, Honourable Mabel.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair and the members of the committee. Honourable Chair, in this matter, I really now becoming confused because now a deputy minister just said to us there's a case that is being opened by Ms. Dlamini. Now, if there's a case that is being opened by Ms. Dlamini, how are we expected to intervene as a committee? I just fail to understand that, because if the case already it's in the maybe on the legal hands, now how are we going to intervene? What will be our input in intervening in such a case? We'll be calling Mr. Mukwebo, or I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the surname wrongly, but on the other side, we call Mr. Mukwebo to Parliament. On the other side, there will be proceedings of court, whatever legal steps that were taken by Ms. Dlamini. I would like the minister just to give us a clear, really, a picture, because now you want us to intervene, and really intervening in something that it's being now handled on the other side, of which really I don't know how I'm going to intervene in this case. Maybe it's me who don't see it in with the same eye with the minister, deputy minister, or maybe I might be wrong. I think I would need to be corrected here. Really, I don't understand it exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. I think the DM wanted to add something.
No, Honorable Chair, I didn't say there's a case open. I said Minnie's consulting her legal advice or counsel. She will inform us on her action if they do open a case, but currently there is no case that is opened. And I would not want to be misrepresented. I said she is consulting a legal counsel, and we will know whether there will be a case or not. But that's the status at the moment. I hope Honorable Mabel understands where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, DM. Honourable Chauke Adonis, and then we'll go to Honourable Kanile.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity, and greetings to honourable members and the Deputy Minister once again. Chairperson, I'd like to also just start off by appreciating the matter before us that has been brought forward by the Honourable Deputy Minister, Steve Letseke. And I think this is quite a critical matter that should be brought to the fore. And one would also take an appreciation that it has really sparked a debate in society that says we really need to have an interpretation and better understanding of legal framework and legislation that are being passed in the country that seek to protect and promote the rights of to vulnerable. And in this instant, it would be women. And how do we ensure that what has been adopted and amended in the National Strategic Response to Gender-Based Violence is being successfully implemented, which falls within the jurisdiction of this particular portfolio committee. And perhaps this is an educational moment, not only for members of parliament, for lawmakers, but also for society. As Honorable Honorable DM has alluded to the fact that there are various forms of soft gender-based violence that is being perpetrated, and we have, as a society, normalized this practice. And yes, Chairperson, the question would be, is this within the jurisdiction of this particular portfolio committee to summon Mr. Mgwebo's appearance before this portfolio committee? And as Honorable DM has alluded to, it comes in various forms, whether physical, in written documentation. There are various forms that are prescribed that give us that authority. Honorable Steve has also alluded to the laws that allow us as members of the National Assembly and as a portfolio committee to intervene in matters of this nature, having parliamentary privileges. And I think this speaks towards the exercise of these limitations or these jurisdictions and the authority in which is given to us and the responsibility to protect the rights of the most vulnerable. And it's quite concerning that we find, I know Honorable Mabel, perhaps you seek clarity to say there was a case, and I'm glad that the DM did clarify this particular aspect. To say, do we wait for a victim to first have, must they be physical bodily harm before this portfolio committee then responds and acts? And this is something where, once again, we perpetuate a culture of cyberbullying, which we've been very silent on. And it's within our responsibility to ensure that we are protecting consumers of social media and various content. Additionally, the DM has alluded to the fact that there are various institutions and departments that have a critical role to play in terms of the regulating of certain social media and podcasting platforms in order for us to ensure that the constitutional mandate is protected and upheld. And one would then say, perhaps what we need to be discussing, it would be in what form would we want a response to or an undertaking to take place in order for us to ensure that there is consequence management, there is accountability, but also speaking towards responsible citizenry. We must understand that freedom of speech must not infringe on the rights of others. We must protect the rights of the most vulnerable and all South African citizens. We cannot continue to perpetuate gender-based violence. And as members of parliament and this portfolio committee, I think, as very clearly stated, it's within our jurisdiction to perhaps find clarity on the matter. And one would even call for a public apology, not only to Ms. Minnie Dlamini, but to all women. As a woman myself, highly offended, and we must not try to politicize the matter. We must understand that we just happen to find ourselves with a matter that has sparked public outrage, both leaning on the positive and the negative side of it. It has a face and a name that is widely popular from both the victim and the perpetrator in this instance. So we must say this must be a lesson to say, are we responsible in the content that we're putting out? Are we ensuring that the rights of consumers and the rights of South Africans are being protected? Are we having content creators that are responsible and responsive towards the entire national development goals we have set? And if we seek to address and eradicate gender-based violence and femicide in the country, it starts with us also addressing where areas of concern are usually given an oversight, or we do not look into matters of what happens on social media platforms. We have seen many cases of young people being cyberbullied on various podcast platforms, leading to various bodily harm, leading to suicidal mental health challenges. And yet nothing is being done because we are waiting for a victim to be brutally assaulted, to be murdered, before we then respond to the matter. And perhaps lastly, Chairperson, is to say then there's further intervention that needs to take place as part of the recommendation to say how do we have a joint sitting with other relevant portfolio committees to see what can be done that will be more sustainable, impactful in the long run, in order for us to ensure that the work that has now been escalated does not only stop with this particular case, but it must be continuous, ongoing, in order for us to continue protecting the lives of the most vulnerable. And lastly, I say it is not about the popular icons. I'm going to call them icons because they've made a great impact and contributed towards the development of the entertainment industry and also developing young lives, as the podcast has done. Is to say, even if it was a Tembi, a Tsepo, who is from a certain community, we would be standing up and saying, not in our name. We cannot continue to allow women to be subjected to such abuse, and we must promote positive masculinity in this form. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kanile.
Sure. Chair, you said
Okay. Sorry. Honorable Polwani, but your hand has gone down, so you missed the spot in the queue. Don't worry. Honorable Polwani, followed by Honorable Kanile. My apologies.
Okay. Chair, thanks very much. DM, thanks for the presentation before this committee or explanation of the letter. Maybe, Chair, let me start with your question. I think the answer is yes. Honorable members, let's make sure that our we do our work as the portfolio committee. In South Africa, we have the constitution. Everyone have the right. For example, there is a right for the freedom of speech and the right for dignity. But let's make sure that the people must be aware that the right must go hand in hand with the responsibility. I want to lobby this committee to support the letter from the DM. This is the 7th administration, honorable members. Let's make changes. It's true, DM. There are references on the social media that I can mention and say that say the minister and the department has been silenced and doing nothing on the of which our role is to address the GBV cases. And there are pieces of legislation that guide us. The DM already mentioned the Section 56 of the Constitution that guide us, the Unfair Discrimination Act, and many more. Let's make changes. This is the 7th administration. Chair, I just want to lobby this committee to do their work. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Can I ask Honourable Kanile, Honourable Members, also there's a request that you please turn on your cameras when you make your submission. Honourable Kanile.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Once again, greetings to you and greetings to the Deputy Minister. Chairperson, I note the presentation or the request that is being brought forward by the Deputy Minister. With that being said, I also want to acknowledge the statement that was issued by the Deputy Minister, where the Deputy Minister was condemning the utterances that were made by Mr. Mukwebo, also known as MacG. I saw the news trending. I also had to go look for the link. I found his utterances to be very derogatory, number one. Number two, they are condescending at the same time. And I have been following some of his interviews. He is not apologetic about what he has said, and he feels that he is also uncancelable. Chair, I also did a further research and also discovered that Mr. Mukwebo, it looks like he has done this to other women as well. And some of the people that utterances were made against were celebrities as well. The names are found on the internet. Like the Deputy Minister has already alluded that some of them already have taken the legal route to sue him through the civil claim. With that being said, Chairperson, I am not certain if we are in a position to mediate in this issue, considering that as lawmakers, we have made laws, we have various institutions that are responsible for various issues that need to be reported to them. When I look at this case, I do believe that SAPS has a role to play. I do believe that he stands a good chance of opening a case of criminal injuria and a civil claim as well, which I also believe may bring that apology and some cost to it. That is, if the court rules in Ms. Dlamini's favor. And there's other steps that the Deputy Minister has also suggested here. The Deputy Minister also spoke about the Human Rights Commission reporting this matter to BCCSA. And over and above that, I saw an interview that was done by the chairperson of the Communications and Digital Technologies. As a portfolio, they are also looking at regulating the podcast to be able to deal with such issues. With that being said, Chairperson, I want to reiterate that we stand with Ms. Minnie Dlamini, not only her, but with all other victims of gender-based violence. And where justice is not done, we will ensure that as part of our oversight, we intervene. Maybe if we were sitting here with a SAPS case, a case number where she's indicating that she has opened the case and SAPS is not doing what they're supposed to do. I think like we had a few weeks ago, SAPS had a meeting, the portfolio committee on SAPS had a meeting with the SAPS executive where they were dealing with the Xwexwe case. And we were invited, because our portfolio interlinked to other portfolios as well, to sit in that meeting. And we asked questions which we felt were very important in trying to get to the bottom of what was actually alleged around the case of Xwexwe. With that being said, Chairperson, I do wish to reiterate that as a portfolio committee or myself, I fully stand and fully support all the victims of gender-based violence. And where justice needs to be done, we are definitely going to intervene. But at this point in time, I think we will be overreaching if we decide to mediate on this matter. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Angel. Dr. Leklape. Doc?
Thank you, Chair. I align myself with what Honorable Kanile said. One of the problems that we have is lack of consequences. So for me, I would ask that we seek legal advice and we not accept an apology to ourselves. There are different spheres of government. We should be part of the complainant as the aggrieved party, not the one that hears how we've been aggrieved. We should be on the side of the victim, that is all women in this country. So I would like us to get an opinion about us going to lay a charge of criminal injuria. If a charge has already been laid, we become an amicus to the case so that there should be accountability. I don't want us to sit in a situation where somebody comes, there's a lot of pressure, they apologize, and you are not getting the law to adjudicate on this matter as to whether men have rights to possess women's bodies, to be derogatory about women. We need to take it to the sphere of government that needs to deal with it. So my humble suggestion, Chair, would be to concur with Honorable Kanyile that we get a legal opinion about being a complainant, laying a charge of criminal injuria against this gentleman. And I use the term gentleman advisedly. So for me, Chair, let us be a complainant. And it should not be dependent on what their legal people have done. If we are the ones, we are the committee that protects women's rights. We're a committee that is dealing with this gender-based violence that is perpetrated by misogyny from men. Let us be the complainant. That would be my take. I wouldn't take the easy route of summoning somebody who's spending money and we got no powers to censure that person. Because I feel this is a crime against all women. And it should be tried in a court of law. Just like has been done with people that have had derogatory terms about other ethnic groups and they've been taken to court for that type of language. We should, as a committee, consider being a complainant and lay a charge of criminal injuria amongst other charges. We'll listen to advice. Defamation would be issues of the person saying, I've been defamed. But we can, on behalf of all women, ensure that men understand that they do not have control over women's bodies. And it's about time that this matter went to court and we use the resources that back us up to be the complainant. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Doc. I hand over to Ms. Peterson, Honorable Peterson.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm having a little network problem, so I would ask to please keep my camera off to be audible enough. I would like to echo the sentiments of Honorable Dr. Litlapi to seek legal advice. I don't think, or rather, I think it's safe to say that we will never condone the behavior of MacG. It cannot and will never be correct. As a female myself, we can never accept the behavior of the likes of individuals like MacG. But, Chairperson, we must not put ourselves in a position to make it seem as though we only speak for individuals with influence. What about the young girls that he has previously spoken of or made comments about who couldn't stand up for themselves? Apologies. Additionally, Chairperson, we have matters where we still have rape cases that are rising. We still seek justice for Chesney Kepler. On the 4th of May, apologies. On the 4th of May, a 23-year-old Sinenhlanhla was at a workplace when she got stabbed to death. Similarly, a young girl in Saldanha Bay died after police forced her to swallow drugs. These are matters which I feel requires just as much attention. Correctly so, MacG MacG needs to publicly apologize for the statement that he has made and for the woman that he has offended. He needs to be held accountable. But we must not put ourselves in a position where it makes it seem as though we only speak for people with individuals with influence. In conclusion, Chairperson, as a ministry and committee advocating for women, youth, and persons with disabilities, I think it is important to rather seek an approach that deals with these issues and addressing it more effectively and taking the voiceless young woman equally serious. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Peterson. Honorable Spies.
Chair, did you forget me? Or
No, your hand is now
it was early up.
okay.
I think I was after
Okay,
Meg.
let's go to Honorable Speaker, and then it's your opportunity, Honorable Shabango. And then we'll go to Honorable Tsotetsi and then to Honorable Lonzi. Honorable Speaker, followed by Honorable Shabango.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I need not to repeat what has been said, but I think it's important that I do say it and put on record that the remarks made by the podcast, MacG, was reckless, and it was really, really unfortunate, and it was just really bad. And it doesn't sit well with anyone. It cannot, it doesn't sit well with me. I think for someone who has been personally experienced cyberbullying, a few years ago and had to take action, I strongly condemn the utterances that was made by him. But then many women on a very daily basis, and as we currently sit here, faces online harassment. And I think it's very crucial that we address this issue with gravity. I do believe that podcasts, have a significant influence on our society. Podcasts really, it shapes the culture and the perceptions, and in particular amongst our young people who consume news and information through this platform, but society as a whole. And I think it's important that podcasters must exercise responsibility and also the consideration in their content. And as we all have heard, this person has done this so many times. And then, Chair, I want to align myself with Dr. Letlape, my colleague, Honorable Kanhile, Honorable Peterson, that our portfolio committee should prioritize the issues that aligns with our mandate. Clearly, we should do that. As the TM has also said, our advocacy role, focusing on matters that require our attention. But I want us to really avoid selectivity in the issues we raise and the respect the committee's boundaries. And I think we should take note of that. While I acknowledge the Deputy Minister's effort in tabling this matter to us, with very clear actions stipulated, I would actually find it encouraging to see a consistent action in other instances. Because I do believe, and as the Deputy stated, we need a huge stance, but we need a broader stance on advocacy issues or efforts. And we need a much stronger engagement also by the Commission of Gender Equality. I do not believe that we should now be summoning anyone at this point to this committee at all. I do not think we are at this point really in a position to make that decision, and I will not support such a decision. Because I do believe, Chair, it sets a concerning precedent and it oversteps, I believe, our committee's authority. Notably, we must also take into account that the Department of Communications is addressing the issues of online cyberbullying, and which encompasses these issues and future incidents that might occur or is happening at the moment. So I want us, Chair, at this point to remain focused. I want us to look at exploring the legal route by us getting an opinion from our legal advisors. But at this point, Chair, what we are saying and what we are stipulating as actions and summoning people to this committee is setting to me a huge precedent, because what do we do in the case of many women? For instance, I know of women that at this very moment that has gone through this, that has not been, no one stands up for them. No one even knows about it. And I do believe that we must tread very carefully in how we deal with this. And I sympathize with Ms. Dlamini, with all women that goes through it, because I know exactly how it feels. And maybe I haven't experienced it on the same level that Ms. Dlamini had, or my incident wasn't similar. But cyberbullying online gender-based violence, soft gender-based violence, call it whatever you want, is not acceptable, and I will never stand for that. And that is very clear in my, discussion or my input in this. And so I would not at this point agree to us summoning anyone at this point to this committee to further address this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Spies. Honourable Shabango, it's now your opportunity.
Thank you, Chair, and my apology for interjection. It's just that I need to sign out from the hospital before 12. So that is why my hand was raised earlier. Maybe when I started dressing up, then I took it off. But I really apologize for interjecting.
I really apologize. We didn't know you in hospital, Honourable Shabango, our mother. So we wish you well.
No, I'm good. I'm good, Chair. Chairperson, let me take the opportunity also to welcome the presentation by the DM. And I'm not going to repeat what other members have said, but I've picked up loudly so that the minister indicated that this is not an isolated incident. Because if you look at this podcast, it has been happening that I think this guy enjoy to bully or to do this cyberbullying on women, especially the celebrities. It's only that now it has been presented while it happened to Ms. Dlamini, but I understand that it involves a whole lot of other the incidences that happened to women before. And having said that, I take it that the department is saying now is the time that we must stand up against this cyberbullying. It has been happening a lot. It must come to a stop. And not that it's specifically for an individual. It's not an isolated incident. And there's quite a lot of cases like this. So this one is just that the name is there, but when dealing with this, it will include everything. And from this presentation of DM, I think we heard, he mentioned pieces of the legislature that are there, your section, because you call this person to come and present himself, evidence or whatever. If it doesn't happen, the questioning, then when you get to the section 17, where the person refused, then there would be criminal offenses, of which I hear other members, they want us to start from becoming complainant, which is another, the section 17. And if you look at these pieces of legislation that the minister has presented, they have to be implemented by who? We are the portfolio for women, youth, people with disability, and we have a mandate, and the GBV falls directly to us. But for me, I feel like we run away from implementing one of our mandates if we say no to the answer of the Honorable Chairperson, to the question of the Honorable Chairperson. And if we say no, then who? The department that we're portfolio for is to implement policies, is to raise awareness, is to deal with the GBV. And they need our support. If this department fail, and if they want to implement policies, we as the portfolio committee we're supposed to provide support. Having said that, I think how this is presented to us, for me, is clear. It's not dealing with just an individual. It's a general, it's a common problem that this guy is doing. And once he's called to present himself, or us being the mediator, then not that he's not aware, but this must come to a stop. He has been doing it for quite some time. So I would want to say, for me, I see it's still our responsibility to deal with this without individualizing the person that we are talking about. But in general, with this podcast, as some members mentioned, that the Department of Communication is dealing with the laws that will control this podcast, because there are so many, and it's good that they are there. They assist in different ways, but most of them, if you look at them, they infringe it into individuals' rights. Like that one of Chris, I've seen it some when the Chris was called to apologize publicly in that church. So there are so many, and with their freedom of speech, but they infuse it into some people's dignity, the rights, and so on. So being in this committee, which directly deals with GBV, we cannot continue a business as usual. It has never happened, but if we start now to say enough is enough about this cyberbullying, then we can put a stop into this. I don't differ much with Honorable Letlape to say we must seek legal opinion. That we can do, but not denying, not to say no in dealing with this, to say we invite this individual. But the legal opinion, from my suggestion, I would suggest that we seek legal opinion in bringing this person to come and account to this committee, to be just see what legal advisor, just to be advised on what we are deciding to do. But having said that, I support, and I want to say I accept the request from the DM, because really this is a serious challenge. If you look at that podcast, it's, to say the least, is disgusting. Being a woman and looking at that podcast, how that guy is, it's stripping the dignity of the individuals on the social media. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Honorable Shivango, and we wish you well, and we're glad you are being discharged from hospital. I know that the Honorable Toteti is on the road, and he wishes to now, although I don't see him on the platform at the moment. Honorable Tiamo, are you still with us? No. Okay, can I hand over to Honorable Lonzi?
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I must start by introducing myself to the Minister. Minister, my name is Sihle Lonzi, Member of Parliament, deployed by the Economic Freedom Fighters. And I'm introducing myself, Chair, because I don't know this minister. I'm seeing this minister for the first time. When a 13-year-old girl gave birth in Sishiro Hospital in Limpopo, teenage pregnancy, I never saw the face of this minister. When cases of Cwecwe came, boy in Matatiela, Alu, I never saw the face of this minister. When last year, between I think October, December or so, there were more than 120,000 reported cases of teenage pregnancy in KZN, in Gauteng, Limpopo number 3, and I think Eastern Cape number 4. I never saw the face of this minister. When the rape victims of Omotoso didn't receive justice, and the judge literally said it was as a result of the incompetence of the NPA in her judgment, effectively saying these people were supposed to receive justice, but because of the inefficiencies of the prosecutors, the NPA, a rapist is now free to roam the streets of South Africa. I never saw the face of this minister. So I don't know them. And I think really that then calls to question what makes this, if it is not grandstanding, if it is not populism, if it is not selective activism, why must Parliament be dragged to this particular case, which members have correctly said that perhaps if you are looking at cyberbullying, it can form within the ambits of the Portfolio Committee on Communications, Digital Communications, and the likes. When about half of the young people in South Africa are unemployed, remember this is a Portfolio Committee of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities, was sitting with almost half of the population of young people are unemployed. We don't know these people. So that's why we get to be surprised when all of a sudden they emerge out of the woods and then they want to push particular agendas in Parliament, even when the agendas are genuine, because I must concur with the members, really the footage is distasteful. So the agenda is genuine, but because the delivery of the message is of questionable character and ethics, now we're made to ask questions to say, why is this being brought to this Parliament? And perhaps, Chair, we must just give a very quick education, because I heard some members of Parliament saying this committee has a responsibility to implement laws. Chair, I think both you and I and other members would have at least have a basic understanding of how government works in South Africa. We'll appreciate that the three arms of state and government have three very different mandates. You've got the legislature, which is us, who writes the laws. You've got the judiciary, which interprets the laws. And then you've got the executive branch, which must then go and execute and implement the laws. So when the member says this Parliament is not implementing laws, I get to be very confused whether members of Parliament and even the minister themselves understand really the real mandate of portfolio committees and Parliament, which is to oversee and act as a check and balance to the executive branch. Now, Chair, we've got the Commission of Gender Equality. We've got the National Strategic Plan on GBVF that Cyril Ramaphosa likes to talk about in his very unpassionate sonas. Now, the question we must then be able to ask the minister and the department rather is this a vote of no confidence on those particular entities? Because that's when we then come in as a check on the executive to say, all these entities which fall under the department, which are supposed to deal with these issues, the Commission of Gender Equality, the strategic plans which are there, and many other entities that are supposed to deal with these very critical and important issues, have they failed to deliver on their mandates? And if the minister must then come to us and say, look, we've failed to deal with GBV in society. And we're asking Parliament in its oversight duty to perform oversight over government departments and entities, to then come in and say, all of these nice words that we like talking about in SONA, all of these commissions that we like establishing, all of these useless structures that we spend millions and millions of South African taxpayers' monies on, are not doing their work when it comes to implementing the national strategic goals and plans on GBV in South Africa. And when there is that vote of no confidence in those particular entities, then us as Parliament, within our mandate, we then come in and say, it is now time to intervene. Because Cyril Ramaphosa has failed to fight GBV in South Africa, because the Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities has failed, because the Deputy Minister has failed, then Parliament must be able to come in. So when the minister runs to this committee, it's declaring of a vote of no confidence on themselves as the department, because the department must play that role. The department must play that role, and we must then do oversight over the department to say, in as far as the mandate of the department is concerned, have you been able to deal with these issues in society? And then if they are saying to us, no, we've not been able to deal with it, then as Parliament, we can be able to come in. Because I'm happy because I listened to one of the interviews of this particular minister or deputy minister, And then they corrected the remarks which we saw in the media that they are summoning this individual to Parliament. Because my first thing was that they've got no powers to summon anyone to Parliament. That's a decision that we must take as members of Parliament and this particular portfolio committee. They've got these ministers report to us, who are the ones who are in charge of Parliament, who are running Parliament. They don't get to tell us what we must do in Parliament. But I'm happy because I think sanity prevailed, and after some time they were able to say, no, we're going to ask permission from this particular Parliament to look into this thing. But I am extremely suspicious of this selectivity that we're seeing. And I think this has been echoed by other members of Parliament to say that we don't know these people. We never see them when these cases of GBV come out. We never see them when very sensitive and important issues come in South Africa that deals with the violence that we see against women and children in our society. But we get to see them on certain cases. Why is that the case? So the minister, I mean, they may or may not respond to that particular aspect, but it was important for me to raise this to this Parliament to say that we must not be allowed to be derailed from our program. We've got a very clear program as this Parliament Chair. We know what our mandate is. We know what it is that we want to achieve. We've already resolved, by the way, even before the department had resolved, to say that we're going to go to Matatiela and look into that particular aspect in Xwekwe. And we did it as members of Parliament because we could see that there's a silence. We could see that there's nothing that is coming from the department. There's nothing that is coming from the South African Police Services. So we have to do some joint venture together with other portfolio committees and go and look into these issues. So I take exception, not to the case itself, because it's a very important case and we condemn what happened there. But I take exception because the characters which are presenting these cases in Parliament are not only, don't understand Parliament processes, or if they understand them, they just undermine them. But they are also very selective in the types of cases that they want to bring before this Parliament. And then perhaps, Chair, in closing, I would be interested to know from this minister, because we've been engaging with this case, even in our media platforms and even in many other engagements that we've been having. And then people reach out to us that, that person may be related to someone who was working in that podcast and got to be released from that podcast. I forgot the name, Manaka. So I wonder if you've got any commentary to make to that effect, to say, do you have any prior relations with people who either worked or worked in that podcast? And if that is the case, would that then not be the reason why you want to elevate certain issues of GBV above the other more important issues, or rather not more important, equally important cases of GBV which are there? Do we not wish that Xwekwe's mother had a friend in ANC politicians or had friends in higher places? Do we not wish that the 13-year-old teenage pregnant girl from Sishiko had friends in higher places who could elevate their cases to Parliament? Do we not wish that the victims of rape of Omotoso had friends in ANC politicians and friends in higher places who could take and elevate their cases to such institutions? Do we not wish the many women and children in South Africa who are ignored, who are neglected, who are overlooked, had friends in higher places or relatives in higher places who would be able to elevate their issues to be discussed at this level? It doesn't happen. We don't see it happening. So I take exception. I think these are very questionable characters which are bringing these cases before Parliament. If this portfolio committee chair, which I would support, by the way, wants to look into this matter, I think we must do it independently as a portfolio committee without any outside influence from people who are coming from this ministry or this department, because they've not shown us any intention of resolving the genuine issues which are affecting women and children in South Africa. But they want to nitpick and choose certain cases because perhaps it becomes personal to them because they are related or they've got friendships with one or two of these South African celebrities. So I submit my submissions and comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Lonzi. Honourable Lonzi, you've asked for responses from the Honourable Deputy Minister, and the Honourable Deputy Minister is still with us. So over to you, DM. Thereafter.
Chair, perhaps through you, I would just like an opportunity before the Minister
Chair,
responds.
I hope I'm audible.
No, no,
I
Honorable
must
Whip.
express my appreciation to you
Chair, if I
and
may, before
members
the
of the
minister comes,
Portfolio
the
Committee.
deputy minister
I
comes.
think
No,
from
no, Honorable
the
Whip, I don't
submissions
want
that
to.
were made by members of the
Just hang on, DM. No, no, Honorable Whip, I don't want a situation where honorable members will be responding to one another. I think it's now an opportunity for the Honorable DM to respond to the issues that have been raised with her, and then we will close this discussion. I'll give a way forward. Honorable DM, over to you.
Chair, before you proceed, I thought perhaps I wanted to say that perhaps some of the statements that were made were misleading, and I think it's our responsibility to clarify statements that are misleading, rather than to move and just have them overshadow
Honorable Whip.
the work of the organization.
Yes, but Honorable Whip, the DM, the questions and comments were directed to the Deputy Minister. So I wish for the Deputy Minister to respond. I do not wish for a situation where honorable members respond to one another at this stage. I want the Honorable DM to be able to
Thank you,
respond.
Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Whip. Honorable DM, it's over to you. I also see the hand of Dr. Lihlape, or is that a legacy hand? Over to you, DM.
Okay, can the DM proceed? I will speak in our session, Chair.
Thank you. Over to you, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. I must appreciate the inputs by honorable members. Well thought. I don't take this lightly in terms of the opinion and the views that members have weighed in. I want to appreciate the sense of acknowledgement that members of the committee has in the gender-based violence that we are dealing with. And I think my submission to committee was to say that there is indeed the responsibility that we own within the three arms of state, the responsibility we have as the state, and of which I've outlined the work that we have been doing, and also highlighting the whole of society where Parliament can also play an active role, not just by visiting and doing an oversight, which is part of it, but by actions that allows Parliament to exercise their own privileges. And I think that's the submission we have brought this. It's a mechanism that exists. Parliament must exercise its own mechanism. And I want to really appreciate that those who actually have explored to say, let's tap into legal opinions. Let's even expand whether is Parliament Committee, Portfolio Committee even able to open a case? Because if we are to demonstrate seriousness of gender-based violence work from a Parliament point of view, you are ought to then exercise your rights, and it's within your own rights to explore those. Madam Chair, there were direct questions, even from, I think, Madam Honorable Species there, which I think I actually had one or two, which I was worried a little bit about words that were used, like, selective matters and so forth, which I sometimes find very challenging. And she made even reference to speak about the Portfolio Committee boundaries, and I was not sure which boundaries was she referring to. If she's referring to sections that I've quoted that the Portfolio Committee was or is able to explore, or if she was making reference to something that I don't know. I think I wish I would have understood, or she would have been explicit so that we understand. I don't want to take what Honorable, let me get his name thoroughly, Honorable Sihlelonzi, who introduced himself. I don't think in the case of the work that we do, we will come here in the 7th administration to undermine one another. Whether he knows me or he doesn't know me, but it doesn't give Honorable Lozi any right whatsoever to actually undermine me in my role. If he really wanted to know, and he's been responding to things publicly himself, he should have actually even done a homework. The first homework that Honorable Lozi should have done. Honorable Lozi was supposed to read the statement that was first released last week. Nowhere in the statement that the department...
My surname is Lonzi. There's an N there.
Honorable Lonzi, the
Since we're
statement...
talking about reading, please, there's an N there.
The statement that was released that he needed as a deployee of EFF to Parliament, he needed to read. And we can't help him, or we can help him if he needs to, read the statement that we refer matters. We've never claimed as a department that we are going to summon anyone. We refer these matters also to Parliament to exercise its right. The same way Chapter 9 institutions must exercise their right and duties is the same way even other institutions such as South African Police Service will exercise their own obligation. Our duty as a department, not only just as an advocacy and as a mainstreaming department, our duty is also to monitor whether all stakeholders and institutions are actually doing their work to respond to gender-based violence. Why would the member think that we will not make recommendation to explore? It is for this committee to explore what we submit to it and make decisions to it. The other point is that Honorable Member, Honorable Lonzi, is misleading this committee to suggest that we have made a submission otherwise that is far-reaching. It is misleading to even assume that our work we are not doing properly. It is also misleading to assume that we are only selecting this case of known people, Ms. Dlamini and Mr. Mkwebo. In fact, I did articulate even in my submission to yourself that this is a case that has received popularity because of the stance and the position and the influence that the individuals hold in society. When we speak about cases in Tonga, in Lusikisiki, in Matatiela, in Buputatswana, all of these areas that we are actually going into, when we speak about cases, even in Soweto or in Atteridgeville, nobody received this very same level of attention. He himself, as honorable member, doesn't. Now, let me tell you, you cannot say, where was I? In fact, I'll take a few steps back. Where were you when we were standing outside the many cases of gender-based violence, seeking accountability and making sure that SAPS follow up? Where were you when UDC Melani in Guatemala were murdered? Where were you? So you cannot come and claim, where were we when we are with the people, when we are with the children, with the women? When you speak about the 90,000 teenage pregnancies, I was there and we are attending to all those issues. So please do not, honorable member, mislead the committee that we are not doing the job. We are. The society, the violence is happening in our homes, in our churches, in our streets. And that's where we are saying there's something that builds into this violence. Before a woman and a child and any vulnerable person gets raped, let's stop it by virtue of verbal abuse, online bullying, cyber attacks. Before a woman gets murdered, let's stop it where it starts. And this is a clarion call that I'm making to all members. There's no political stance here. There's no selection. This is about lives of many South Africans. And if we act, we must act impartially. And we must never politicize this. And we must not come here and claim grandstanding. There's no grandstanding. And there was never an attempt to take away the powers that you have. We were saying the powers that you have, we are asking that you utilize. So that even when you take trips, as you suggest, to go to Matatiela, you actually exercise and say, we've done this and we achieved it. You're not just to visit, but actually you've exercised the powers that is upon you. Honorable Chair, what the committee concludes, for me as the Deputy Minister, what would have been important is that this committee taken time exhausting its remedies to actually help us deal with online violence, with gender-based violence entirely, eradicate it, so that the women, the girls, the children, the boys, including vulnerable groups such as LGBTI and persons with disability, can live freely. You do your job as parliamentarians, not only just limited to oversight and accountability, but you can utilize the privileges. And that's what we are calling for. And thank you so much for indulging this process, Honorable Chair. I appreciate you.
Chair, is the DM related to Monaka or not?
That was a question you asked. I don't know who's Monaka. I'm not related to anyone. And if I am, I possibly don't know. And I'm also not friends with MacG nor Ms. Dlamini. These issues of South Africans, we speak for all, whether they are known or not. We stand for all South Africans.
Thank you so much, Honorable DM. I do see the hand. I don't know, are these legacy hands? It's the hand of Honorable Leklape, Honorable Spies, and Honorable Pulwane.
Chair, don't forget to also acknowledge me. Thank you very much.
Okay, but I don't want, you've exhausted the issues now, honorable colleagues, so I don't want you to be, was that a legacy hand, Honorable Pulwane?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty, okay, Honorable Dr. Leklape, your hand is now no longer up. Do you want to say?
It was a legacy hand.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Spies?
No, Chair, that was also a legacy hand. Thank you.
Okay, dokes. Honorable Adonis, was that a legacy hand?
No, Chair, it's not a legacy hand. I just wanted to say that perhaps the Honorable Deputy Minister did clarify some of the items, and perhaps one wanted to also clarify that perhaps as a portfolio committee, we should be well adversed and aware of who our ministers and deputy ministers are. That is very important for us to really know who we have oversight over. But equally to that, I think it's quite concerning for members of this portfolio committee to want to minimize our constitutional duty in terms of oversighting and really protecting the rights of the most vulnerable and issues of gender-based violence over issues of unemployment, which are equally quite critical for this portfolio committee. So, Chairperson, I just wanted to re-emphasize that. And lastly, perhaps what we need to do is request for legal opinion on behalf of the portfolio committee. Thank you very much, Chair.
In fact, I had already spoken to to Dr. Tembe yesterday. I sought his views and I had a lengthy call with Dr. Tembe, but I will ask him to put something in writing. Honourable members, we are going to now step off this item. I think firstly, thank you, DM, for your presentation and for your inputs. I think the majority of members are not in favour of us proceeding as the Honourable Deputy Minister had requested us to do. And honourable members, I think I also want to say, as we sit here, I note that Ms. Dlamini has not approached us herself, and she's not opened a case with the police in terms of defamation or gender-based violence or cyberbullying. And I think all of you have touched on this point, that if we do decide it is our mandate to proceed with hearing one case of cyberbullying, it would mean that this portfolio committee would have to extend that to every Tembe and every Liesel and every other person, because we cannot be selective in choosing one case. So if we deem that to be our mandate, then it is something that we have to consistently apply. In other words, we would also have to hear all other cyberbullying or gender-based violence cases that happen online. And I do not think that we have got the capacity to do so, but there are other instruments that we can utilize. So that having been said, I've heard your plea as honourable members for us to get a legal opinion, and we will ask Dr. Tembe in our next meeting. We are dealing with gender-based violence matters, and we will ask Dr. Tembe to come and brief us then on his legal opinion in terms of this case. But I think just as a way forward for now, I would like to say that as a portfolio committee, we would like to align ourselves with the Minister and the Deputy Minister in rejecting the comments of MacG as vile, and it must be rejected with the contempt it deserves. This portfolio committee will continue to leave no stone unturned in terms of doing our work in fighting gender-based violence. And we do so by oversighting the executive. We do so by our oversight visits. We do so by oversighting the NSP. We do so by engaging with NPOs and NGOs. We do so by engaging with stakeholders. And like I've said before, we will do so by possibly having 3-day hearings on gender-based violence during the 16 Days of Activism campaign. We will support your complaint, Honourable Deputy Minister, to the BCCSA. We will also encourage you to finalise your discussions with Ms. Dlamini and to encourage her to open a case with SAPS and to follow due processes. We also will support the approach and the intervention to lay this matter or to send this matter as a complaint to the Commission for Gender Equality, and we think that is the right approach. And I think as a portfolio committee of women, youth and persons with disabilities, we will follow the work that the portfolio committee on communications and digital technologies will do in terms of what they've already indicated, that they would like to look at regulations to regulate the podcast industry. We know that the print media and radio is currently regulated, but we know that there is not an oversight body for podcasts or online content. So we'll keep an eye out for that. But honourable members, I think then that we will step off the item for now. We will not be calling MacG to appear before our portfolio committee at this stage. We will engage further, and we are meeting next week to further discuss our department's interventions to fight gender-based violence. And at that point, I will invite Dr. Tembe as well to come and give his inputs as you have requested. I see the hand of Dr. Letlape. I hope I've summarized what honourable members have requested that we do. Dr. Letlape?
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to say, Chair, that it should form part of the formal legal opinion to us. The Deputy Minister raised issues about our duties to be able to do this. And we should not be deterred by the fact that we're going to open the floodgates. We need to be properly advised in terms of those responsibilities. How can we do them properly? I agree with the conclusion that at this point in time, we won't be calling MacG, but I think we should be clearly advised, because if we now have a Gogo Dlamini who's not famous, who's not the minister, asking us to intervene, what would we then do? Would we then say, I hope the Chair understands that we need to be properly advised in terms of whether we have this responsibility that is too onerous, that we might not have the resources for, but if we are called to do this by somebody else, what do we do then? So that we do not shirk our responsibility, Chair.
No, that's fine, Dr. Letlape. We'll definitely ask Dr. Tembe to talk to us about that, whether it's within our mandate. I do not think that there's a request from Ms. Dlamini before us that we are considering. She has not laid any formal complaints with any bodies, nor has she approached this portfolio committee. And I'm sure that had she approached this portfolio committee, like you said, if there's a Gogo Dlamini approaching the portfolio committee, maybe our stance would be different, but it's true that we have to seek legal advice in terms of our mandate. Is it our mandate to mediate cases before the case that the Honourable Deputy Minister has brought before us, which is a case of cyberbullying? So yes, we will get proper legal advice in that case. I want to close this matter because you'll have another opportunity next week to engage on gender-based violence
Chairperson?
matters. Honourable Whip.
Apologies, Chairperson, for interjecting as you wrap up on this matter. I just want to find out, in your summary, you have indicated that we will not be furthering or escalating this matter in terms of summoning anyone to appear or to report to the Portfolio Committee. Is this on consensus of members rejecting this particular motion? And one would want just clarity on that, in terms of the number of members who have rejected this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Yes. Honourable Chauke Adonis, I took notes, and as far as I understand, in terms of the submission made by the Deputy Minister, persons who voted in favour of us calling MacG to appear before us was yourself, Honourable Chauke Adonis, Honourable Totseti, Honourable Shabango, and Honourable Polwane. Then against the proposal is myself, Honourable Kanyile, Dr. Leklape, who is asking for proper legal advice in order for himself to be able to apply his mind or give an opinion, Honourable Spies, Honourable Lonzi, Honourable Peterson, and Honourable Mabel. So the fours are 4, and the against is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I've counted Dr. Leklape as abstaining for now. Honourable members, that is then the conclusion of today's discussions on this matter. As I've indicated, the discussion around gender-based violence and femicide and our interventions as a portfolio committee, as well as the work that our department is doing in this regard, will be discussed next week. So we will have an opportunity to further engage. I will then also ask Dr. Tembe to come before us to give his opinion in terms of our mandate in hearing cases such as these. Dr. Leklape?
Chair, my plea would be that if we're going to vote on matters like this, let it be done properly, where after the outsider has presented, we then excuse them. We then enter into discussion and a formal vote, so that due process. Because I thought we were still just making inputs and discussing, engaging with the Deputy Minister before we come and make our own decision. So just so that it becomes properly minuted, so that no one comes and says, but process was not followed. Just for future, that would be my plea, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
I also didn't really think that we would vote on this matter, honourable members. I listened to your inputs carefully, and I calculated the members who were in favour and those that were not in favour. I didn't see anybody calling for a formal vote, but when the Honourable Whip asked me to pronounce on that, that is when I gave my impressions in that regard. But your comments are noted, Dr. Leklape. Honourable Shabango?
Chairperson, I think maybe you didn't understand the question from the whip. You ask if the decision that this is not going to be entertained or escalated is based on what? It was a question. Then you mentioned that it's based on the number that is for and the number that is against.
Honourable Shabango, I'm not sure whether I didn't.
Recording in progress.
The question was, are we proceeding with calling MacG before us? And I said at this stage we are not proceeding to do so. And I then highlighted why we are not doing so, because the majority of members are not in favour of us proceeding at this stage. I also said that I agree with honourable members who have asked for a legal opinion to be presented to us next week on this matter, where Dr. Tembe will come and speak to us about our mandate and responsibilities with regards to the request that we got from the Deputy Minister. I'm not sure they know what I didn't understand.
It's over, Chair. It's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much, honourable members. That is the conclusion of today's discussions. We will reconvene next week to specifically speak on the issues of gender-based violence and the National Strategic Plan. And we will also then have an opportunity for honourable members to receive the legal opinion from Dr. Tembe in this regard. Thank you so much, honourable members. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.